I'm so excited and delighted to be here this evening. I'm glad to welcome you all to this webinar, Education that meets the demands of the 21st century. I hope you're having a great day. I just need to ensure that more people join me before I get started. This loud and clear. Please let me know. Let me know, please. Okay, so I'm just going to wait for more people to join in. My name is Adedeji Abdulatif, the Flat Classroom Expert. I'm so excited to be here today. So what do? I basically train teachers and school owners on how to effectively implement the Flat Classroom. And today we're going to be talking about something very important to the education landscape, to us as teachers, to our students, to all stakeholders in education, and to the world in general. And what is that thing? The education that meets the demands of the 21st century. So we are in the 21st century, and a lot of things are really going on. There are a lot of rapid change in the technological landscape in the global world. Globalization is currently happening. There was the climate change. There are a lot of things going on around. Unfortunately, while there have been rapid changes in the way we live, in the way things have been done in mechanization, globalization, education has not been able to keep up with all this. And what is education? What is the aim of education? The aim of education is simply to prepare. Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Abdulaziz. I'm glad you can hear me. So the aim of education is simply to prepare our learners, our students, to be able to thrive, to be able to be useful in the community, to be useful to themselves, to be useful to their society, to have a positive impact in the life of other people and in their own lives. Yes, exactly. But unfortunately, the type of education we currently want, especially in Africa and in the most large part of the world, is a type of education that does not really adequately prepare our learners, our students, for the demands of the 21st century. So, because of this, it becomes very important for us to come together as educators, to learn, to collaborate, to share ideas on the demands of 21st century education, to know what is demand of us, to know the skills, the competence that our students need to have, or to know, to process, to be able to thrive in the 21st century. And when we understand this, it becomes easy for us as educators to be able to help our learners to acquire these skills and competence. And that's why we are here today. Okay, so this particular webinar is going to be divided into three parts. Because we're talking about education that meets the demands of the 21st century. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what are the demands of the 21st century? Yes, number one will be what are the demands of the 21st century. Then the two options is the second thing we're going to talk about is going to be what type of education meets those demands. What type of education can meet those demands? And then the third one, which is very, very important, is what are our roles as educators to ensure that that education is possible, or what are our roles as educators to facilitate that type of education? So we're just going to go right in now. Let me say if you can still all hear me. Okay. So we're going to be getting started now. Just give me a sec. So if you are here and you can hear me loud and clear, let me know where you're joining from. Where are you joining from this evening? Let me know where you're joining from. Okay. All right. So as I was saying, the first thing we're going to be talking about today are the demands of the 21st century. And when we say demands of the 21st century, what do we really mean? We mean those things that are demanded, those skills and competence that everybody, including our learners, including the learners of today, everybody needs to have and possess in the 21st century to thrive. Okay, and these are very, very important for us to know. Okay, I'm glad to say I'm joining from Ogun State. I'm also joining from Ogun State actually. Okay, so number one, so when we talk about demands, what do we mean? So it means things that are required of us, of every one of us to thrive, not just survive, to thrive in the 21st century. And before we get started, we need to talk about what the 21st century is all about itself. So if you have noticed, because the 21st century is completely different from, for since the beginning of the world, there have always been ages, and there have always been a particular thing that characterizes each time. For example, we have the Stone Age, we have the Middle Age, we have the Bronze Age, we have all those ages. We have the 19th century, we have the 28th century, we have the Industrial Revolution era that happened in the 28th century, but now we are in the 21st century, and this is technological revolution, information revolution. This is the age where technology is taking over, where there's artificial intelligence, where a lot of things that you spend a lot of money to do before can now be done by robots, by AI, without any problem. Unfortunately, while the world is moving very fast and rapidly, our education is not meeting up. And education is supposed to like prepare our learners to meet those particular needs. Okay, so what are the demands of the 21st century? Number one, of the demand of the 21st century from every one of us is that we have to become a problem solver. And this from the angle that we have come to the end of the job era. Yes, there are jobs, and everybody cannot be entrepreneur, everybody cannot solve problem. In fact, even the person with job actually is solving a particular problem. And that's why we all must be problem solver. We can be a problem solver and be employed, yes. But the thing is, the quality of problem you're solving will determine the quality of pay you will get, and will determine the quality of job you're going to have. And whether you are employed or self-employed or a business or an investor, the most important thing is that you must be a problem solver. Okay, you must be a problem solver. If you're just looking for, we're waiting for a particular job to happen for you, then there's going to be issue. In fact, in this particular 21st century, employers that are ready to employ, they are looking for employee that can solve problem. They're not looking for employee that just have certificate anymore. We're in the era beyond what you know. We're in the era of what can you do with what you know. So it's no longer enough to know something. And why is this very important is that, you know, it's just like teachers. If you're teaching a student that you're teaching to learn, and a student that you're teaching to pass, you don't teach them the same way. Yes, you don't teach them the same way. If you're teaching a student just for them to be able to pass the exam, this thing happens a lot. There are some times where, and I want you to signify if this has happened to you before. There are times when you have set your exam questions. Okay, you have set your exam questions, and then it has been printed, it has been typed, everything has been submitted. Okay, but then there's a particular topic that's remaining for you to give to your student, for that's remaining to teach your student. You realize that the way you're going to teach that topic is different from the way you teach the other topics. Why? Because this time around, you are basically teaching them that topic so that they can be able to do the exam. So just teaching them as much as they need to know to be able to write the exam. That's the same thing. If you're teaching your learners, if you're teaching students just to be able to learn, just to be able to acquire information and to get certificate, to get SSC, to get bachelor's degree, to get all this degree, then it's fine. We don't really have to stress ourselves much. In fact, this conversation, yes, there are a lot of things we don't need to do. But then when we take it further to teaching students, not just to acquire the information, but to be able to apply, to be able to apply the information, then we need to go above and beyond the normal practice. And that's what we need as educators in the 21st century. Okay, so the first demand of 21st century is that our students have to be problem solver. And I have to chip this in that you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot teach students to be a problem solver if you are not a problem solver yourself. So let me ask you, are you a problem solver? Okay, so you have to be a problem solver yourself. So the first demand of 21st century is that whether you're going to be employed, whether you're going to run your business, whether you're going to be self-employed, whether you're going to, regardless of whatever you want to do, you have to be a problem solver. Okay, that's how to thrive in the 21st century. Even the bank manager, the director the director, the CEO of a bank that is employed and getting a salary is solving a problem. Okay, so we not think of, okay, we want to train students to be a problem solver. Then we have to start thinking about some skills, about students actually having skills, because you cannot solve problems with the information you have. You have to be able to apply that information. You have to be able to apply the information to be able to solve the problem. That's the first demand. The second demand is that our students have to be independent thinker. Our students have to be what? Independent thinker. In this world, we have gone past the world of where you can just tell students, where students will just, where people will just do what they want to do. I once read a quote from, I think it was Napoleon Hill or Andrew Carnegie, but I think it's from a book of Napoleon Hill, and it mentioned that two people cannot be successful in life. First is the person that will not do what he's told to do. The second person is someone that will not do more than what is asked to do. In the 21st century, one of the things that will characterize those that will thrive and be successful in the 21st century is that they must have initiative. They have to be able to think independently. They have to be able to come up with ideas. They have to be able to come up with ideas. They have to be able to they have to be able to sit down and think of ideas. Okay, ideas that can change the world. In fact, one of the demands of the 21st century is that you have to be a dreamer. Yes, you have to be able to think. Because go and check the biggest company that are making the biggest people that are making the massive amount of money today. What are they doing? They are simply thinkers. The people who can sit down today and think, and all this thing actually comes together to be on that problem solver too. Because it's when you are an independent thinker that you can think of solving a particular problem, or there's a particular way that a problem has been solved before, but then you can just sit down and think of it and feel like, okay, this problem has been solved before. Now let's try another way of solving it. Okay, that's part of the demands of the 21st century. Why I'm actually making all this, mentioning all this, is because when you get to the roles of teachers or we get to the type of education, these are things that we need to adjust our education to, so that our students can actually acquire these skills. So the first, again, is problem solving. Our students have to be able to solve problem, and these are things that they have to start from now. Okay. Two is independent thinker. They have to be able to think independently, regardless of the situation. They have to have their own mind. They're not people that you can do very well in 21st century. Is that, and when I say rebels, what do I mean? Not rebels in the negative sense, but rebels in that people that challenge the status quo, people that cause positive rebellion. Hey, Mr. Olakunle always says some, always call it creative rebellion. People that go against the tide. People decide to go on a path less traveled. People that characteristics of an independent thinker, doing the same thing the same way. That means we can expect different results. And this time around, if you see around you, see that things are to some extent saturated. Market are saturated. There's at least something you want to, a common thing that you want to do that people. So what it means that to create room for yourself, to make room for yourself, to become that person that have that solve problem. You have to come with something independent thinker. Like you don't just follow the thing is digital and media literacy. Okay, in the 21st century, one of the first century, been an abundance of information the way it is right to information that there was a point in time when before you can get information you have to read for daily newspaper, even weekly newspapers. But now anything you want to get, you can just get it in seconds. Facebook, Twitter, all these media platforms, all this news channel, you can get it at just a is that because there's an abundance of information, we need to raise one of the demands of the 21st century is that our students need to have digital literacy and media literacy. Media literacy in the sense know how the media works. Okay, they need to know how the media works. They need to know that it's not everything that the media is saying is the truth. What is true and what is the truth? Behind every advertisement, there is an agenda. There's something that people want to do. There's something that there's a propaganda, there's an agenda. There's something that people expect you to do. There's something that media literate that they know to follow, the platform not to follow, that they are critical thinker in their own way, be able to evaluate false information from true information, from authentic, just media, but also digital literate, digital technology to be able to work. And this leads us to being tech savvy. We have gone past just say, me, I'm not a tech person. No. In this particular world, everybody have to be a tech person. Everybody have to be good with technology, at least some basic level technology. Everybody has to be able to use artificial intelligence. Everybody have to be able to use some phone. Everybody have to be able to use. They have to be able to use word processing, spreadsheet package. Everybody have to be able to create PowerPoint presentation. Yes, it's so important that everybody has to do this because we are in the 21st century where everything is being driven by technology, and in this world, we are we are no longer in a democratic world. We're now in a technocratic world, a world that is driven by technology and that is governed by technologists. I'm going to say that again. We're in a world that is driven by technology and governed by technologists, which means technologists are actually the one that rule the world. People like Jeff, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, they are the one that rule the world. Do you know why? Because with their company, with Meta, these guys actually influence policy. Yes, they influence policy that ensure that they stay in the market. They influence policy that make sure that they get richer and their company gets bigger. Because of 10 years ago, there's nothing like about there's AI, but there's really not much about AI. Now, AI is there, AI is driving the government crazy. President is trying to set policies, privacy, and a whole lot of other things just because of what? AI. Okay, so we're in the world where our students can afford to not be technological savvy. So they have to be good with technology. They have to have that orientation from small age. That technology is not just their friend, it's not just something they have to use, but it's an enabler, it's a leverage. It's something that actually makes the world a level playing ground. That with technology, there's nothing they cannot do, they cannot achieve. Okay, so I'm just going to recap now. I don't want this to be long. So I've mentioned 4 demands of the 21st century. Now, at least there are a lot of them, but this just, for me, I just believe these 4 are the most important one. Number 1 is that our students have to become problem solvers. That's 1. 2, they have to become what? Independent thinker. They have to be able to think independently. Number 3, they have to become digital and media literate. And then number 4, they have to be tech savvy. So once you understand the demands of the 21st century, the next question that we need to ask is that what type of education can actually meet these demands? What type of education can equip our students, can empower our students adequately to be able to meet these demands? Number 1 is that we need to think about there's something called the 4 C's of 21st century education. The 4 C's of 21st century education. And these are 4 important skills that is required that every student actually have. And then when they have these 4 skills, then we can be very sure that it's going to be easy for them to meet this demand of the 21st century. Excuse me. The first one is creativity. And what does creativity mean? In a very simple term, something out of nothing. So creativity is bringing something out of nothing. Creativity is being able to like invent or innovate. Creativity is being able to sit down and think of how to make things better, or think of novel ideas, generate ideas to solve a particular problem. That is creativity. Now the second one is critical thinking. What is critical thinking? Why creativity is bringing something out of nothing. Critical thinking, on the other hand, is simply bringing something or bringing the most important thing out of many things. Okay, so creativity is divergent. Okay, creativity is divergent. Creativity is you bring up ideas, you generate ideas. While critical thinking is convergent. Critical thinking is what you need when you have a lot of ideas, a lot of even sometimes conflicting ideas, and you now have to sit down, evaluate the ideas, separate the true from the false, separate the fact from the biases, and then reach a profitable conclusion or reach the most accurate conclusion. So that's critical thinking. This is part. Critical thinking is very necessary when it comes to media literacy. When you are being bombarded by information from every angles, and you have to know the most important or the truth out of those information so that you can be able to make a well-informed decision or take a well-informed action. So critical thinking is very, very important. And in business world, in solving a problem, critical thinking is what helps us to know what is next about a particular product. So when you are solving a particular problem or a problem is being solved and you got that you're like, okay, yeah, this problem has always been solved this way. How best can we solve it? Is there a better way of solving this particular problem? Okay, that's what critical thinking. Then the other two is communication. So in the world where we are, what we say 21st century demands that our students are problem solver. We realize that solving a problem is not enough. If you solve a problem but you don't know how to communicate your solution, you're going nowhere. Okay, so communication is very, very important. What I'm doing currently now is communication. You have an idea and you want other people to key into the idea, you want other people to buy into the idea. What do you have to do? You must be able to communicate. We have to be in 21st century. The type of education that we need are education that foster the development, that encourages, but not just encourages, but is an enabling create but an education that creates an enabling environment for students to actually develop these skills: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and finally collaboration. Collaboration is teamwork. Collaboration is working together with people. Collaboration is being able to work together with people from diverse area, diverse countries, from different continents, and to be able to work together to birth, to move from ideation to realization of an idea, or to work on projects together. That's collaboration. In this world, there's hardly anything you can do on your own. Yes, there's hardly anything. But unfortunately, one of the biggest issue we have is that we raise our students to be individuals, to work just alone, to be just for themselves alone and alone, to be on their own, to be just me and my thing. Students need to be able to work together with each other to solve problem. It's very rare for a person to be able to solve a particular problem on their own. Go and check the biggest company. I remember in the last event I was in, the last training I was in, I make a distinction between, especially in business, there is a difference between a founder and an owner. Okay, I said while a person, and even this is not even common anymore, while a person can be a founder of a particular company or a particular organization, is very rare, in fact very close to impossible in this time and age, for a person to be an owner, okay, of a company, to be the owner of a company. Yes, you can be the biggest shareholder of a particular company, but that does not make you the owner. So, but why is this very, very important is because if the only thing you want to do is me and my team, and I want to be the owner of it, I want to do it on my own, I want to solve the problem myself, I want to do this myself, then you're going nowhere. Because there's high probability, there's high chance that all the skills needed to solve a particular problem, a person may not have it. So what does it mean is that you have to put together your own resources. Okay, sometimes, for example, now, Elon Musk, I watched a video of Elon Musk where he was explaining on why they are setting up, I think it was PayPal, X.com then, that okay, he is the computer engineer, is the one working on the website, doing the programming, while his brother was doing the designing. So his brother worked during the day, working with the design while he worked during the night, doing the back end programming. That is collaboration. Okay, so in this world, we can't afford to raise kids who don't believe in collaboration, who can work with teams, who can work with each other. So the type of education that can meet those demands of the 21st century are education, particularly that foster the development of these four skills: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. Okay, and another education, and how do our students acquire these skills? Number one is that our education have to be student centered. We have to move away from an education that focuses on just teacher. I always make a distinction between between two things, very, very important, which is teaching and learning. Teaching is what teachers do, learning is what learners do. But the classroom, why the teacher is the of the classroom, that does not make the teacher to be the owner of the classroom or to be the alpha and omega of the classroom. So we have to have an education. Okay, the network is bad. Oh, sorry about that. So we have to have an education that actually speak, okay, or that focus more on the needs of our students. Okay, that focus more on the needs of our students. So sorry about that, Miss Adenike, about your network. So we have to have an education that focus more on the needs of our students. So we need a student-centered education, an education that takes into account, that encourages active participation of students, not just a passive participation, an education where we don't just see students as an empty container that will fill up, but an education where we know that, okay, our teachers are like tap, they're like just pipe. Our students are not what a container, but they themselves, they are actually have something already, and they can what's it called, they can contribute to whatever is happening in the classroom. Because the biggest issue about our education, especially in Africa, is that our education is too teacher centered. Our education is just about the teacher, and without our education being a student centered education, so you cannot develop critical thinking, they cannot develop creativity, because they don't just have the chance. They don't students communicate in the class, they don't communicate, they don't collaborate, they don't work together. It's in a student-centered classroom that our students can actually acquire these skills: communication, critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration. What else? Part of the education, another type of education that we need, okay, another quality of education that we need in the 21st century that can meet the demands of the future is an education that prioritizes application of knowledge as much as it prioritizes acquisition of knowledge. Yes, acquisition of knowledge is very, very important. But if that's the only place we stop, if we stop at acquiring knowledge, then we don't have hope. Because, as I mentioned earlier, we have gone beyond just the type of world we are right now does not care much about what you know as much as they care about what you can do with what you know. And remember, one of the demands of the 21st century is that our students, or even ourselves, we are problem what? Solvers. That we actually what? We solve problems. So what it means is that if you are not, for our students to be able to solve problem, they have to be able to apply the concept they have learned. So they have to go beyond acquisition. In fact, to solve problem, after acquiring knowledge, you have to have a deep understanding of the knowledge, and you have to be able to what? Solve, to apply the knowledge, apply the information to solve problem. Okay? And then another thing, another type of education, another quality of education that we need in the 21st century is an education that promotes or that prioritizes equity. Okay, equity. And what does this mean? There are two terms that we usually use interchangeably, but are not actually the same. And they are equity and equality. Equality is just the idea that we give people the same thing. Okay, we give people the same thing. It's the concept of being fair. Okay, and a simple example is that let's say you have 3 kids. Okay, one is 15 years old, one is 10 years old, and the other one is, the last one is 5 years old. And then you don't feel like, okay, because my 15-year-old boy can eat, let's say, uh, 20 loaves of bread, okay, 20 slices of bread. So you notice that, okay, because I'm giving my 15-year-old 20 slices of bread, so I'm going to give the 10 and the 5-year-old the same slice of bread. That is equality. Okay, or you can say because my 5-year-old is okay with just one sachet of golden more, so I'm going to give my 10-year-old and 15-year-old just one sachet of golden more. Do you think that will work? Will that work? Absolutely not. It won't work. But the concept of equity is when we don't just give people the same thing, but we actually give people, we empower people, we give people based on their need. Okay, and that's when we now come to the fact that realize, sure, okay, if my 5-year-old can take one sachet of golden more, then I'm going to give it to him. And if the 10-year-old can take two sachets, I'm going to give it to him. And if the 15-year-old can take four sachets, he's going to have it. So that we're not just giving people the same thing, but we're actually giving them things based on their need. One of the things that we need to prioritize in the education, in this era, is the fact that is that we have to start treating our students differently. We have to encourage education, we call it differentiation in education practice. That means a type of learning environment where students learning are differentiated, where students are being catered for based on their individual needs. Okay, because what a particular person need is not what another person need. Unfortunately, in our education, we give them the same thing. Okay, then we expect them, and these students, I like to say, these students are as different as our fingerprint. Okay, they're as different as our fingerprint, as their fingerprint, they're as unique as their fingerprint, and which means we have to find a way to be able to cater for their needs. Okay, to be able to what? Cater for their needs. So I'm just going to do a bit of recap here. So I've mentioned four demands of 21st century. I just mentioned just four. You can make more researches, and you can also, excuse me, you can also add to it. And I've mentioned the four qualities of education that will meet these demands. And the first one is an education that foster development of the 21st century skills, which are communication, collaboration, creativity, and critical thinking. And also an education that is what? Student centered. Education that prioritizes applications of knowledge as much as I will prioritize acquisition of knowledge. And then lastly, education that promotes equity and inclusive education. Okay, education that promotes what? Equity. So now, what's now our roles as educators? What's our roles as teachers to facilitate this type of education? What's our roles as teachers to facilitate an education that promotes all these skills, that empower our students to that adequately equip our students, okay, to thrive in the 21st century? Number one of the things we need to know, number one responsibility that we have as teachers, is to revise our methodology. What is methodology? It's simply our method of teaching, the way we teach in the classroom. So we can't afford to keep teaching 21st century students using 19th or 28th century method of teaching. It cannot simply work. They say you cannot expect to keep putting you can't put old wine, sorry, a new wine inside old wine skin. Okay, you have to put new wine inside a new wine skin. Okay, so for us to get the best out of our students, out of our education, the first thing as teacher that we must start with is to revise our methodology. We need to move away from our traditional method of teaching. There are some method of teaching that we need to adopt in the 21st century that's going to help empower our students to thrive in the 21st century, to be able to acquire all these skills. Example of those methodology, we have the project-based learning, we have inquiry-based learning, we have problem-based learning, we have a blended learning, and we have, at least if I don't mention this, you should beat me. We have the flipped classroom because that's my major focus. That's what I based on. So flipped classroom is not the method. It's not the only method of teaching that you can, or it's not the only approach of teaching that you can adopt in your school or your classroom to facilitate the education that will meet the demands of 21st century for our students. So there are lots of other which I've mentioned. I've mentioned project-based learning. I've mentioned problem-based. I've mentioned inquiry-based learning. There are a whole lot of them. You have to make more research. And I always say this, and I'm going to repeat it here, that as a teacher, if the only thing you are is your 4-year degree as a teacher, or maybe your 3 years degree as someone that attends college of education, you are undereducated to be a teacher or you're underqualified. Because to be sincere, most of the things that you are being taught as a teacher right now has even been outdated many years back. Okay, and let me give you an example. I'm currently a final year student of a university of education in Nigeria, and then one of the things that you learn in any education, in education generally, in methodology generally, is taxonomy of learning. And then you're going to learn the cognitive domain, affective domain, psychomotor domain, and then you get to the point where they divide all these domains into different components. And the cognitive domain is divided into 6 parts. And guess what? According to Benjamin Bloom, cognitive domain is divided into 6 parts. We have knowledge, okay, knowledge. We have comprehension. Yes, we have comprehension. We have application. Let me use. Yes, we have knowledge. We have comprehension. We have action. We have analysis. We have evaluation, and we have synthesis. Okay, see the one I just listed for you right now is outdated. This thing was, I think it was prepared around 1956 or 1950 something, thereabout. But this has been revised since probably 1990 or 2000. It has been revised since then. And we now have, it has been revised to meet the criteria of the 21st century to now have knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, evaluation, and creation. Evaluation and creation. The other one was knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Yes, evaluation was the last one. Then the new one is knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, evaluation, and creation. Okay? Unfortunately, till this moment, we are still being taught the outdated Bloom taxonomy. Okay, why there are new one, and this is not just about it. In fact, you realize that if you study education, you realize that most of the methodology that I just mentioned to you right now, these are not things that we do in the classroom. These are not things that we are encouraged to go for. If you're a teacher party student and you come to class and you start demonstrating a flipped classroom, your supervisor will feel like, what is this one doing? Yes, what is this one doing? But then regardless of that, and where do I go from there? Is to like speak to the idea that teachers that we need to invest in our personal development. And this is not just personal development, but we need to invest in our teaching practice. We need to invest in our knowledge. We need to invest in our skill, in our competence. That regardless that whatever we learn while we are in school is probably outdated right now, or is not just enough. Okay, it's not just enough to give us what we need, or to be able to adequately prepare our students for the future of education is not enough. Okay, so what do we need to do? First, we need to revise our methodology. We need to, and the biggest part of this methodology, any methodology that we're going to use, is that it has to be student-centered. It has to be a methodology or an approach to teaching that focuses more on the student, that prioritizes the need of the student above all else. That is very important. Okay, let me know, are we getting value from here at all? Is this making sense at all? Is this making sense? So we need to work our methodology. We need to, and let me quickly relate this methodology to all the qualitative education I mentioned earlier. For example, the methodology we're going to start implementing as teachers in our schools have to be a methodology that encourages and fosters the development of these skills: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. Not just that, it has to be a student-centered methodology. It also has to be a methodology that gives students that opportunity to apply what they're learning, to collaborate together, to work in teams, to communicate. Okay, and it has to be a type of methodology that also promotes equity, that promotes individualization, that promotes differentiation. Okay, I'm glad you're getting value. Thank you. That promotes what? Differentiation. Another thing as our goals as in the 21st century is that understanding of students. Let me tell you, my dear teacher, the students you're taking right now, they're teaching your classroom, they are not you. And they are not your type of student. And what does this mean? It means that when you are a student, sometimes I think about it and I realize that most of the time, teachers, especially teachers, we don't teach ourselves. Okay, we simply recycle how we are taught. Okay, and I'm going somewhere. What do I mean? If you go to, for example, now I'm studying mathematics education in school, and one thing we realize that if you study math is that even though you're studying mathematics and you're going to teach students from GSS or even primary school, you're going to teach them secondary school, you realize that most of the things you're going to teach these people, you're not going to learn it in school. You're going to learn advanced mathematics. Yes, so you're going to be very good in mathematics. But guess what? The topic you're going to teach in school itself, teach the student in school itself, there are things that you have been taught since secondary school. So which means when you enter the classroom, so it's not as if that when you are in the University of Education, you are in university, your teacher, and this actually happened to me. Let me give you a big example. For example, now, in my first teaching practice, that was 2018, and I want to take GSS 2. I want to take them this topic, large number and small numbers, and it talk about all these millions, billions, and all these things, all these tens, thousands. So this is something I know very well. Yes, I'm a mathematics student, not just a fake mathematics student. I'm very good in mathematics, and this is something I know very well. But guess what? So when you get to the point where you have to go beyond knowing and you have to be able to teach, you have to be able to explain why this one is million or why this one is billion. Realize that it's a different ball game, it's a different thing entirely. And you realize that in your school or your university, you are not really taught how to teach all those topics. So you have to start learning. Or you have to transport yourself back to when you were in secondary school to how you are taught that particular topic, and then you now teach your student the same way. Where am I really going? Is that the type of student you are when you are in school is not the type of student these present students are. By now, you should know what it means by Gen Z. We have Gen Z, we have Gen Alpha, we have millennials. We have a lot of categories. We have categories of people based on, when they are born. Based on when they are born. Okay? So these categories of people, because of when they are born, they have different characteristics. As a teacher, you have to understand your students. You have to understand that the way you deal with a Gen Z is not the way you deal with a Gen Alpha. And let me ask you, the way you are raised as a child, is that the way you are raising your children right now? Answer that question. I want someone to answer that question in the comment section. Yes. Remember that during your own age, there's nothing like phone. That sometimes you can even be up to SS3 or even get out of school before you start using phone. That even the phones that we have then, what can they do? Maybe you can play games on them. That there's nothing like there's no much of Facebook, there's no much of Instagram. No, even though they are, but it's not so common. I remember I opened my first Facebook account. I think it was 2013. Yes, 2013. But what am I using it to do? There's no really much. In fact, I was not using Android phone cable. It's fair. But right now, a 5-year-old student, a 5-year-old child can confidently boast to you that he has his own phone. Even in secondary school, your students are going to tell you they have iPhone. Okay, they're going to have they're going to have phones that will that will put your phone to shame. Let me use that word. Okay, so where am I going is that we need to understand the complexity of times that we are in. We need to understand the unique quality of the student that we are teaching. So that, because if you don't understand the person you're teaching, then how are you going to be able to speak their language? That's one. How will you be able to meet their needs? Okay, because there's a saying that says people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And part of what you need to do as teacher is to show us that you care about them. And trust me, you cannot care about something that you don't even know about. So part of our responsibility as teacher is to actually take time to study our students. Apart from the generational or the category based on when they are born, what about learning style? How do each student learn? There are students that learn best by hearing, by listening to things. There are students that learn best by just seeing the thing. There are students that learn best by combining both together. There are students that learn best by doing things. They're kinesthetic learners. They don't like sitting down together in one place. They have to move around. They have to work with their hands. Understand these students. When you understand them, and this is also speaking to the idea of equity. When you understand the different personalities, the different learning style of your students, then it becomes easier for you to provide for them. Then lastly, our roles and responsibilities as a teacher is use of technology in the classroom. You also have to use technology. We are in a tech-driven world. I explained earlier that we are in a world driven by technology, governed by technologists. We are in a world driven by technology, governed by technologists. What it means is that for our students to survive, not just to try to survive, they have to be comfortable with the use of technology, and they have to go beyond being comfortable to become. They have to go beyond a user of technology. So they have to be able to create technology themselves. They have to be able to use technology to solve to solve pressing problem. Okay, I want you to know, who knows? Some of the students we're currently preparing right now, they are the key to cancer. They're the key. You know, all these aeroplanes, all this AI, all these machines that we have right now, at one point, we don't have them. It is someone that comes together, it's someone that sit down and feel like, okay, we can do this thing to make this thing work. Okay, the bird is flying. Okay, can we make something that can fly too? And all these people that was a student, the knowledge, they don't take it from they don't bring it from heaven. They also learn it here. Okay, so take that responsibility. And the thing is, one of the best way to prepare our students for the world of technology is to use it for them. One of the things I explained in my training in Oshogbo was that when we talk about, there are some educations that if you don't give your student at home, they're going to look for it out. They're going to get it somewhere else. We're in a world of technology. We're in a world where if you don't give your students, if you don't give your children phone, if you deny your students the use of phone or the use of technology in school, they're going to use it at home. That even as a parent, if you don't give your children access to phone at home, they're going to find a way to use it outside, maybe among their friends. They're going to find a way to use it. So instead of for them to use the technology, for me now, yes, my phone is my office, my company is where I do most of the things I do. So there are just some things I cannot use my phone to do. Okay, and there are some things that I only use my phone to do. So that's me making use of technology. Right now, I'm using my phone to record to have this live video. That's my phone. Now there are AIs. You see students. I've seen it. I have someone, Miss Oreva Brown. There was a time she has an AI class where she asked teenagers, where she teach teenagers how to make use of AI. You see teenagers generating pictures, AI pictures, generating like fascinating pictures. Sitting thinking critically, prompting. What are they using? They are using technology. For example, now let me make an example. I have a coach one of my coaches, Coach Medina Oyedele, I think our son joined Mr. Elijah Otto's AI class. And this particular kid is going to generate AI, and his mom is going to post on Facebook. Yes, so that particular boy is already making use of phone, he's already making use of technology, but he's using it in the right way. So from there, it's going to be open to different ways of using technology. In what? In a positive manner, not just in a negative way. So as teachers, part of our responsibility is to start using technology in the classroom to get our students familiar with the use of technology, to incorporate technology so that they can use technology to also further their learning. So instead of using technology, instead of using phone to just log into Facebook, watch movie, play games, what if they can start using technology to watch educational videos, to watch videos, to do a lot of other things that contribute to their development and to their learning. Start using technology to make researches, using technology to collaborate with each other, using technology to learn about things, that to have access to a world that is limitless in this particular era. Okay, so these are our responsibilities, these are our roles as teachers. And this is where I'm going to stop for today. So I hope with this you have learned one or two things from this. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much for staying to this long. And if you're watching, if you stay here, I'm really grateful, Mr. Abdulaziz. Thanks so much for being part of this, Miss Animke. I'm very sorry about your network. So I hope you learned something. I hope you gained something. So remember, this particular webinar is in three parts. We have it in three parts. The first part is the demands of education, which I've explained. And then apart from the demands, we have the type of education that can meet those demands, which I've also explained. And then lastly, I explained the roles of teachers. Okay, and lastly, let me add this. Part of our roles as teachers educate in this 21st century is that we have to be a progressive teacher. What does that mean? We have to be a progressive teacher. And who is a progressive teacher? Well, there are two terms actually that always used together. They're one and opposite. We have progressive and we have traditional. So we say traditional. Traditional teachers are teachers that do things the same way. They do it the way it has always been done. But progressive teachers are teachers that are consistently and continuously improving their teaching practice. Progressive comes from the word progress. Teachers that are progressing. These teachers are innovators. They're teachers who are open to new ideas. See, all these things I've explained can only happen, can only be facilitated, that can only take place if you are a progressive teacher. If you are that teacher that's open to new ideas, that's open to doing things in a new way. If you are not open to doing things in a new way, then all these things does not even apply to you. But I'm glad you cannot even be here. So the only type of people that will be here or that are currently here are progressive teachers. Okay, so that's another responsibility, and that's what actually leads, and I believe there's a need for us to have a community, and that's why I actually have a community called a Progressive Educators Network. In acronym, we have the PEN network. Okay, the PE network, or you can call it PEN, and that's a community where we actually work with teachers. We work together, we collaborate together. We have webinars that empower teachers to become a progressive teacher, that empower them to be able to take advantage of innovative practices, technology, to enhance student learning experience and to make teaching better for their students. Okay, so again, thank you so much for being part of this webinar today, and I'm really grateful. I'm really glad that you're part of this. Thank you so much for being part of the success of the webinar. If you watch the replay, thank you so much. So drop what you learned. Please let me know. Thank you so much for being part of this webinar. So how is the webinar? Let me have your feedback. Let me know. And before we run off, this is wow, 6:12 already. Just let me know. Do you have any question? If you have any question, please comment it, and I'm going to speak to it in just a minute. Just a minute. We are running up already. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much. My name is Abdulatif Adedeji, and I'm glad. And then before I go, I want to just quickly talk about something. So earlier, I mentioned something about methodology. I mentioned project-based learning, problem-based learning, inquiry-based learning, linear learning. there are a lot of methodology that we need to incorporate into our teaching practice, especially in this era, to adequately empower our students, to adequately prepare them to thrive in the 21st century. And I mentioned all this, and one of them that I mentioned, which is something I'm actually based on, is the flipped classroom. So anywhere you see my name, or if you search my name on Google, first thing that is going to bring out is a flipped classroom expert, because that's what I do. I basically train schools and their teachers on how to effectively implement the flipped classroom. And guess what? I currently have a course tagged Flip like an expert course. Flip like an expert course. So in the course, you're going to learn how to going to be empowered, equipped with everything you need to know to effectively implement the flip classroom. That's what the course is about. Flip like an expert course. So in the course, you're going to learn how to the concept of the flip classroom and how to effectively implement it. You're going to learn how to create PowerPoint presentation slide. You're going to learn how to create video. You're going to learn how to use Google Cloud, Google Drive, how to use Google Classroom, how to use a whole lot of other tools. In fact, the course is actually divided into 7 modules that you're going to learn. It's going to be a self-paced course, but you're going to have access to all the support that you need. The course is going to be officially launched on Monday, March 4th. Okay, and the launch price of the course is actually 5,000 naira. But from now, for those of us that are in the Progressive Educators Network group, I'm going to drop the full details of the course in the group. But then from now till Monday or to the end of Sunday, you can actually get access to the course at just what? 3,000 naira. That's just 40% discount. Okay, why am I saying this? Is that if you are the type of teacher that are actually ready to become a progressive teacher, but not just that, to actually acquire, to learn all this new methodology that can enable you or equip you to be able to prepare your students adequately for the demands of the 21st century, then one of them is that you have to, one of the things that I recommend is that you learn how to, it's actually a recommendation, you learn how to implement the flipped classroom. And if you're hearing about the flipped classroom and you would like to implement it, then you can get access to the course. If you're just coming across the flipped classroom and you're wondering what it is, please, on this particular YouTube channel, just search for ABC of flipped classroom. I have a 20-minute video here where I explain the fundamentals concept of the flipped classroom. Okay, so you can just get access to it. Thank you so much, Mr. Abdulaziz. I'm really glad that you stayed to the end. Thank you so much. So if you're interested in the course, you can send me a message on WhatsApp, or if you are not in the group, just check the description of the group of this video and click on the WhatsApp on the link so you can get the details of the course. So thank you, and I'm going to end the webinar here. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to have you in the next webinar. The details are going to be communicated in the group too, so make sure you are part of the Progressive Educators Network. We are a community of progressive teachers. We are driven by innovation, and we're driven by innovation. We are teachers who don't settle for less. We're teachers who want to make a difference in the education landscape, and we're teachers who are committed to improving our education practice so that we can better equip our learners to thrive in the 21st century. So I'm going to see you in the next webinar. I'm going to see you in the group. Thank you so much for joining. I remember humble self, Coach Abdulatif at JDG, the Flip Classroom expert. And thank you so much, and see you in the next webinar. Thank you. Bye. So thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.